Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be with you here today. I've dedicated the past 11 years of my life to creating opportunities for women who are some of the most marginalised in our society. And it all started at an East London bus stop. It was 2012, the Olympics had come to London and East London was buzzing. But I was being introduced to a darker side of our capital city. I'd just come back from volunteering with an organisation in Bangkok, Thailand, that supported women to exit the sex industry there. Most of the women I met there had come from rural areas to the city to try and earn money to send back to their families, and they hated what they had to do to earn that money. So when the organisation I was with was able to offer them an alternative, something they didn't need qualifications for, they could just turn up the next day for an interview. They were there at 9 a.m. on the dot. So through my very broken tie, I made friends with these courageous women who had managed to turn their circumstances around because somebody took a chance on them. So when I came back to London, which is my home city, I recognised that sexual exploitation isn't an exotic problem. There was a lot of public concern at the time around trafficking related to major sporting events like the Olympics. And I wanted to do what I could to create opportunities for women here. I started by volunteering with a local charity which supports women who are selling sex in the Whitechapel red light area. We would pair up as volunteers to walk the streets of Bethnal Green from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. on a Friday night, armed with hot chocolate, condoms and pot noodles, the classic trio. And a listening ear for any women who were out on the street that night. And I had loads of interesting moments that have shaped me in those early hours, because they're some of the bravest women I've ever met. They put themselves in extremely dangerous situations every day just to scrape by. And I remember chatting to one woman who was in her late 40s. She was talking about how much she hated doing that. And I did something that I always was a bit hesitant to do before, but the moment felt right, so I asked her if she'd ever tried doing anything else to earn money. And her response has stuck with me all these years later. She took a moment and said, "I don't know how to. I've been doing this since I was 13. How could she even begin to imagine what a different life might look like? Since she was a child, she's been used, and now that was all she knew. Anyone contemplating a lifestyle change after decades would be terrified, let alone with all of the layers of trauma, stigma, and real poverty that she was experiencing." Where we were stood together was at a dingy bus stop in the middle of the night, and she had pretty much all of her belongings on her because she was sleeping rough. And if I looked up from that conversation, our backdrop was the city skyscrapers. I couldn't believe that juxtaposition. How can all of that wealth and opportunity exist a stone's throw away from this real poverty and desperation? And would there ever be a way for that world to create opportunities for these local women to have a different future, like the model that I'd seen in Thailand? I never saw that woman again after that meeting, but I met many others like her who were desperate to earn a living, doing something that they could be proud of, to have a vocation, to provide for themselves and their families, and not just scrape by, but actually build something, have a career, give themselves financial independence so that they weren't reliant on a violent partner for money or vulnerable to exploitation anymore. Sadly, gender-based violence is on our doorstep and disadvantage too. Over 100,000 women living in London are unemployed, and a third of women in the UK have experienced physical or sexual violence from an intimate partner. These experiences erode women's confidence and limit her belief that she can do something else post those experiences and have a different life. That is what happened to Nadia, which is not her real name, but her story is real. I met her when she was 19. She had a brand new baby and sadly a really violent boyfriend. She was brave enough to leave that relationship but didn't have anywhere to go, so found herself living in a refuge. She was unemployed, technically homeless, and her confidence was completely shattered. She was so eager to build a different future for her daughter, but she didn't have any idea where to begin and had so many barriers to overcome. And she's not the only one in a situation like this. So I couldn't keep meeting women who were experiencing situations like this and not do something to try and help. I was determined to do something that would give women an alternative. And I joined forces with a friend who was volunteering in a local hostel that a lot of the women were housed in, and she was cooking there. So we put the idea together to teach baking as a vocational skill for women to learn, and to see if we could build a little business selling the baked goods to create employment for them. Because we believe that women can change the direction of their lives no matter what they've been through. So that's where the idea for Luminary Bakery was coined. We kicked off those classes 10 years ago now, and we grew that little business into a multi-site operation, supplying some amazing brands with cakes. And those brands choose to use their resources to purchase with purpose. And those orders create the employment opportunities for women to leave disadvantage behind. So that dream of the big corporates in the city creating opportunities for local women is starting to come true. We recently welcomed our 200th woman through the doors of our training programs. And not long ago, one of our graduates opened her very own restaurant. These women are capable, they're talented, resourceful, determined, and brave, and have so much to offer the world. They just needed someone to give them a chance. And didn't we all need that at some point? And many of them are mums, so investing in their futures has wider implications too. Their families' finances drastically improve, and the aspirations of their kids are raised. So for Nadia, she went through the bakery training program and gained work as one of our paid bakers. She said, "Before Luminary, I was shunned by most of my family and friends, bar one. I also had nowhere to live. This was an incredibly painful time that no one will understand unless they've lived it. To go from that to actually making baked goods that people spend money on is unbelievable. I got some of my pride back, but it will take years to heal completely." Rebuilding someone's confidence is something that might take years. For Nadia, her ex-partner had attacked her confidence and self-belief, even though she was actually really smart and skilled. So we know how easy it is to break down someone's confidence. I'm sure we've all had situations where one misplaced comment about a piece of work that we were really proud of, or an outfit that we thought we looked great in, can shatter our confidence in an instant. But how do we build confidence? I believe that it's built through a combination of bravely trying something new and then external validation when you do. Brittany Packnett-Cunningham, in her excellent TED Talk on confidence, says that community is the safest place to try confidence on. And I see that in our community of women. When our trainees try baking something new and it goes catastrophically wrong in a very relatable bake-off style moment, you can see their confidence plummet. But the minute their peers come around them and come up with ideas of how they can salvage it together and share stories of when their bakes fell apart, the community pieces back together not only her cake, but her confidence simultaneously. One woman, Sadie, again not her real name, struggled with reading comprehension. She had made a few mistakes in previous bakes because of struggling to follow the recipe, so she was starting to doubt herself. But she still had the courage to show up week after week because of how supportive the women around her had been in those moments. So she steeled herself to try again on bread week, which is a risky one. And painstakingly, she weighed out the ingredients, following the instructions to prepare her dough. At the time, we were using a church kitchen to bake, and there wasn't really enough space for us all. So they wrote their name on their tray and handed it to one person who was going to pop them all in the oven together while we went off to have lunch. So when the lady on oven duty brought the loaves back and handed Sadie this perfectly formed, beautiful loaf with an amazing crust on it, she looked at it and was like, "That's not mine. You've got it wrong. That can't be mine." But when we'd eventually convinced her that it was in fact her loaf and that she had created this thing of beauty, she just burst into tears. And you could literally see the confidence overflowing from her, and it meant even more because of all the unsuccessful attempts that she'd persevered through. I see women choosing to persevere every day against the odds, even when recovering from really traumatic experiences and still facing societal disadvantages, choosing to put one foot in front of the other and bravely facing each new challenge. And when that foot starts to wobble, the community comes around her and steadies her, tells her she's got this, reminds her of everything she's overcome to get to where she is today. Sometimes we need the people around us to give us that perspective, to help us get out of our own self-doubting. It's that external validation to keep trying and not give up. So my encouragement for us this evening is to think about the women around you that might need a little boost. Are they trying something new and possibly doubting themselves? And maybe try to think outside of immediate friends and family. Is there someone at work that could really do with some positive feedback? Who in our community do we think is being really flipping brave? Let's make sure we tell them. Thank you.